Good evening, everybody. I don't even have a. I don't even have a. Um, I don't even have an intro yet. I don't know if I'm going to get one. They say like having videos with intros are problematic. Um, I don't know. I don't. Everything that I do, like on the live streams, is kind of like, will this work? I don't know. Tonight, I'm going to do a few things. One, I'm going to talk very softly. I don't know if you'll hear it. I don't know if you'll hear the difference. I don't know if StreamYards will make the change for me, but my family has decided that they don't like my loud talk. Now, will that change the broadcast? I don't know. But I wanted to try and kind of set up the show a little bit differently tonight. Last night I thought was wonderful. Today I'm going to try and do it a little bit differently. We're going to talk about, I'm going to give a little preview as to what I'm planning on talking about today. And so some of the things I plan on talking about is this phenomenon where workers are quitting their jobs at record paces. I find that fascinating. Then we're going to go over kind of a thought project, the future of work, what people envision as the future of work. We're going to talk about working conditions in a Cleveland kitchen. Say that 3 times fast. We're going to talk about the Great Resignation. Why are people leaving their jobs? Possibly. Talking about working in a fish processing plant and why that might suck. And we're going to do all that today and more on our nature of employment. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Schenk. I am the managing broker and founder of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, we're not going to talk real estate tonight. No. And we won't ever really talk about it on our nature of employment unless something comes up relative to the idea of employment in at least the United States. Why do we go to work? Like, what is it? To feed our family? Well, then explain to me why people at Amazon and Walmart have to be on food stamps, have to be on federal assistance when they work for some of the largest organizations the world has ever seen. Why is that? How is that okay? And then, how are we training people to work? And what jobs are we giving these people? Like, what jobs are available for people to get out of high school, out of college? A lot of people will jump to the defense of major corporations when they say things like, well, if you got a liberal arts degree from college, what should you expect when you graduate? But I think that simplifies things too much these days. I don't think that's the way to go. And so we're going to talk about things like that tonight. But like I said, we're going to go along slowly. We're going to go kind of quiet tonight. I don't want to get anybody too riled up. But I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for the show because I have plenty of information to talk about. You should come online with me. You should get in our chat, and we should mix it up. No, I don't mean mix it up. Like, I don't want to. Like, I know it's the internet and we want to fight each other and everything like that, but I don't. I'm not really that guy. I don't know from your avatar or from your name. I don't know if you're a 10-year-old or a 90-year-old. I don't know if you're a union head somewhere or if you're someone that's just anti-union. I don't know anything about you. I have no context from which to draw from. And so, look, just do this. Comment on something that you think is interesting. I'll circle back. We can't do super chats because I don't have that many subscribers, so you don't have to worry about that. Just put your stuff in there. If you could, to help me out, subscribing would be good. That'd be helpful. And then the other thing is look, you can just sit back and watch. It doesn't hurt my feelings. You don't have to chat. You don't have to be a part of it, but just to watch, subscribe to the channel. That would be good. Share it amongst your friends if you have any friends. If you don't, if you're a loner, then don't feel obligated to share it to friends that you don't have or people that wouldn't watch anyway. Well, but that's the point of our channel. That's what we're going to talk about a lot. And I think it's going to be good. I don't think we're ever going to answer all the questions that we have about employment, but I think we're going to get to a point where we understand that things are just wacko world. Like, nothing makes any sense. Nothing makes any sense. When I was growing up, you get a college degree, and once you had that college degree, it was gold. You could go work anywhere you wanted to. You'd make all this money. That's what I was told. I have 3 college degrees. I have 1 undergraduate and 2 graduate degrees, and I never found that pathway to gold. I never fit into the workforce. I ended up having to really start my own business and do my own thing. because I just wasn't suited for the 9 to 5. I just wasn't suited for the, I don't know, the hierarchy, the politics, the backbiting that one sees in a large corporation, or just the flat. I feel like a number. I feel like a number, and I don't want to be a number. I'm a person. I'm a human, damn it, and I want to be treated like that. So that's my background. That's where I come from. That's where my thoughts come from. Tell me about yours. One of the more fun things we can do is we can, email me. Tell me about what happened at your job. Don't give me any descriptors. Don't get anybody in trouble, or yourself or anything like that, unless of course you've been fired, and then by all means let it loose. But let's just examine the employer-employee relationship in the United States. Let's examine really government's policies with respect to the employment atmosphere. And let's also talk about some of the legal hurdles or legal oddities that make working in the United States a very, very fascinating concept. If I would say that I had some ground rules, one of the ground rules would be with any employment is, can I keep my employee safe? Does my employee have to work in a situation where they could be injured? And if so, is there a way we can mitigate that to where it's minimal? Because to me, the worst thing in the world, honestly, with regards to employment, is this concept. Somebody is trying to feed their family. They go to work every day, and then they're taken out by some mistake at work, or they work in a bad part of town, something that takes them away from their families after just going to jobs. And this extends much further than police departments, fire departments, etc. This extends to the gas station employee. This extends to anybody that's out there busting their hump, trying to get ahead, and then being attacked and murdered at their profession. This is just one of the worst things to me. I think instant death penalty to anyone that would assault an employee, a worker on the job, I think is just lower than scum. I mean, just absolutely disgusting. And I'm not afraid, and I'm not ashamed to say that. So that being said, let's try to get started tonight. I've got everything that I want to get together, but I don't know how it's going to go. I'm worried now we're going to get this stupid autoplay, and we just did. So I just hit pause. I can only do so much. So let's get over to that. Screen, and I'm using a different browser tonight. I don't know if it's going to work any better, but I did want to try to do a better job. So here we go. It says, this is the first one. And let me just preface this by saying we're 8 minutes into the broadcast. I'm putting in tabs later on tonight and chapters, and I just want to know that this is where I'm starting. So the headline, South Carolina workers quitting their jobs at high rates. Now, why would that be? Why would people want to be quitting their jobs? It doesn't seem to make any sense. It says the state's Department of Employment and Workforce reported that 70,000 South Carolinians quit their jobs every month last year. Now that seems bad. That seems like something that we wouldn't want. So anyway, it says nationwide, this is from Columbia, South Carolina, nationwide, people are quitting their jobs at record numbers. And in South Carolina, the trends are no different. Over the last year, according to the state's Department of Employment and Workforce, South Carolina saw a big uptick in workers quitting their jobs. It says we average in South Carolina nearly 70,000 quits per month. So about 3% of our workforce in any given month was quitting, not necessarily to leave completely, but maybe quitting for a different job in a different industry, said Erica von Niesen, an economist for the agency. Now, let's talk about that. One of the things that I think is fascinating is that things that would fly and seem completely normal in one industry don't translate to other industries very well. Behavior. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just go with the simple construction worker. Simple construction worker behavior, at least while I was growing up, not the most clean behavior, as far as maybe there's a cat call, maybe there's some off-color language used, maybe there is some joking around that could be offensive to other groups. This was totally normal, no big deal, but you wouldn't see that type of behavior, at least in our situation right now. You probably wouldn't see that in a major university if you worked at the university. Now, if you were a construction worker at the university, you probably still get away with it, but hey, that's just the way it is. So something like that. In the political spectrum, let's say Let's say you're running for office and you've got employees in your office. Those employees are going to kind of magnify things that some people would call woke, stuff like that. That kind of stuff won't fly in a political office. So different industries, different things. And I can see, if you're tired of one industry, if things aren't going well, I can definitely see you moving to another industry. That seems to make total sense to me. So let's continue. It says, Von Neeson said the labor shortage has helped contribute to the so-called Great Resignation because it can give employees the upper hand. People are looking around and saying, hey, there's help wanted signs everywhere. Now, is that a good time for me to look to see if I can find the right fit, right wage, the right hours, the right flexibility, things like that? South Carolina's unemployment rate peaked at 11.5% in spring of 2020. In March of 2022, it stands at 3.6%. That means most job searchers are employed, which, according to Van Neeson, makes it easier to look around. Now, Google Trends expert Sarah Armstrong added that South Carolinians are searching for advice on how to leave their jobs and find better opportunities. When you look at Google specifically, searches for how to quit your job reached an all-time high last year. In just the whole category of resignations, we haven't seen that level of search interest before. Google Trends also shows some of the top jobs searched for in South Carolina were how to become a notary or how to become a flight attendant. Many South Carolinians shown interest in enrolling in technical colleges to learn specific trade. Plus, a top search nationwide has been for remote jobs that allow to work from home. It says, I think after 2 years of the pandemic working from home, people want to be their own boss, and notary is a great way to have a side gig. You can set your own hours, so there's a big trend we're seeing in the state. Von Neeson added that while South Carolina's labor force is growing, the state's population is growing faster, which makes it harder for businesses to keep up with the demand. And the Department of Educational Workforce, I think that's what it's called in South Carolina, says it has more than 100,000 jobs posted on its website. So let's talk about this article. Now, I'm going to get off of I'm going to go back to, I took myself out of the stream. I'm sorry. I'm going to put that there. I like it that way. I apologize if I messed it up earlier. I'm still getting the hang of my new software. But let's just say, I want to stop the screen share. Okay. So let's just go over this idea of the Great Resignation. When you get an opportunity to see, quote unquote, your life flash before your eyes, like we saw in the pandemic, it caused ripples in the economy. And it caused ripples in the real estate market. There were people that lived in heavy populated cities that decided that they wanted to move out for whatever reason, politics, crime, cost of living. They just felt like they didn't want to be there anymore. And this particular situation allowed for them to do that. Employers were looking for ways to engage employees at their own homes rather than coming into major offices and perhaps spreading viruses and whatnot. So people got used to it. Now, what happened with a lot of the people that I represent as buyers is, you're sitting at your house and you've got your kids running through the house because they can't go to daycare, they can't go to school. So they're with you. And then your husband or your wife is with you, your partner. And then it's just chaos. And so you're trying to have a meeting. You're trying to concentrate and you've got all these people just going crazy in your house. And you decide, hey, if I just had a bigger home, if I had a 4-bedroom home, if I had a place in the basement where I could set up an office and I could work and I could be left alone, this could really work out. This could be great. And then why do I have to work in this location? I can move. So that's what a lot of people have done. That's why the real estate market is so hot, other than the fact that the Fed lowered rates tremendously. But that's what's going on there. Why couldn't that also answer to this idea of the Great Resignation? It is this couched in this thought: I'm going to die, and yet I'm sitting here in this place that I don't like, at this job that is terrible, where I could actually be working from home, or I could be working on something that I really wanted. I always wanted to do this, and yet I'm stuck in this dead end, no future job, and the pay is crap. The environment is horrible. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to make that leap to a different organization, a different industry, or a place where I can work from home. and enjoy some other things in life. So I think that's definitely what is going on. I think it's a bold strategy by the employees everywhere. I don't think that we can discount the fact that the government put out a lot of stimulus checks that are causing two things. One, if you saved your money, you didn't have to work. Not saying that that's okay or anything like that. And two, it's causing massive inflation, worst inflation we've had in 40 years. Now, what makes me laugh is that this type of situation could have, it's not that it could have been avoided, but you could have been honest with people when you said, look, we're going to have heavy inflation. Politicians and economists were using the words transitory to describe the inflation, when most economic theorists believed, unless you're a modern monetary theorist, that there's going to be a significant amount of inflation with this, with the Fed both giving out checks and printing money. Just a bad situation. But that's what I have on that article. Now, let's share a thought. This is a thought experiment. Basically, this is about what do things look like in from the 70s. What did this? I'm going to get out of here. Okay, I'm going to hide this. Now, this is an article, I believe, from Time, and it's what the 1970s tell us about the future of work. So I think that's important. What do we think about the future of work? Now, it says we are working in a world whose future. Oh, let me see how my stuff is looking. Do you like it this way? Do you like it this way? Or would you prefer it this way? I don't have an opinion. We can go. You know what? I do like it this way. Tonight I do. Yesterday I didn't. I'm still getting used to it. But here we go. We're working in a world whose future feels as confused and as opaque as any time in recent memory. And I believe that's true. Except perhaps one. Some historians and economists are tentatively drawing parallels between mounting macro pressures we're experiencing today in the 1970s, a time that also saw inflation, a budding energy crisis, tension with Russia, and concerns about automation, not to mention talk of the 4-day work week and the rise of vintage flare jeans. So what this begins to discuss is this idea that we're actually living through the 70s again. Now, I was born in 1977. I would prefer not to... oh my gosh. What is that about? I don't know. So now I've got a little bit of a mess, but let's hide that. I don't know how I got this like this. How did I get two of them? I don't know. It's weird, but we're just going to go with it. Anyway. So when we talk about the 70s, the energy crisis, that was a big deal. But what was that about? Was the federal government actively trying to not produce oil at the time? Because it seems like that's the way this government is working now. It seems like we're trying to punish people that prefer petroleum-based automobiles and push them into an electronic vehicle. And so I don't know if that's exactly true. Now, mounting inflation, absolutely. Absolutely. Is it as bad as the 70s? No. But we also have other issues. What about food? What about food security? What about that? That's not talked about. So I'm a little bit worried about these things going forward, but let's continue. It says Jackson Cowie is a Vanderbilt University professional and specialist in the history of the 1970s. In his book, Staying Alive, Cowie argued that the decade saw the decline of support for strong American working class and the rise of shareholder capitalism, which has rippled through our workplaces over the past 40 years. So now, do I believe this? There is little support for a strong American working class right now in the United States. I have no doubt. That's absolutely true. Now, the rise of shareholder capitalism, I don't know. We are being run by Wall Street. There's no question. And our government's also being run by Wall Street and the tech oligarchy. So it says, and now, while he cautions against forecasting the future based on historical analogies, Cowie believes that we're at another inflection point in the history of the U.S. worker. What was built in the 1970s is falling apart now, he says. Okay, this is good. So it says the pendulum seems to be swinging back. Politicians on both sides of the aisle, from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump, are at least claiming to champion the U.S. worker. President Biden's defining political identity is the working class. Was written in March 7th of 2022. If Biden actually cared about the working class, he would never, never, ever, ever do the things that he's doing. There's no way there's no way that the inflation that we're experiencing hurts the working class more than any other group. So there's no way that that's true. Okay. The tight labor market is forcing companies to improve compensation and working conditions. Some employers who have for decades gotten away with treating workers poorly have been in crisis because they now can't retain or hire staff. Well, you have that problem, and you also have the Amazon problem we talked last night, where they just particularly want to rush you and run you until you're dog tired, and then they'll replace you for that magic $15 minimum wage. It's absolute garbage. They still do it. And I think that it needs to be discussed often. It says globalization is under pressure. Pandemic, supply chain problems, and geopolitical conflict with Russia and China are leading U.S. companies to shift work closer to home. Now, that's always been a point of contention with me. I would love for everything to be produced in the United States. Unfortunately, we have this thing called OSHA, and we have many other regulations that are specific to American companies where they are hamstrung. There is red tape everywhere. So it actually makes it cheaper to produce goods in other countries and then ship them over here, which to me is not efficient, not security. You don't have a secured supply chain either. But that's what Wall Street wants. Wall Street looks to exploit labor all over the world, and they do a fine job of it. Look no further than Nike to find a company that absolutely, exploits the workers in other countries to the point of slave labor. And no one says a word. No one thinks it's a problem. But I don't think it's going to change because of the people. It would have to be that Wall Street itself would change, and they're not those. They're just not that type. Corporate America, especially tech platforms, face the prospect of increased antitrust scrutiny and regulation. Well, I believe that the tech oligarchs have pretty much bought off Congress. I believe they've bought off the judiciary, and I believe they've bought off the executive branch. I don't see anyone coming to rescue those people that want to speak their minds on these public platforms. I say public platform because you sign up and you're supposed to be able to say whatever you want as long as it's within some bounds, okay? Child pornography, things of this nature, not ever good. Nobody wants to see that kind of stuff. That shouldn't be allowed on the platform. But speaking your mind about an issue in these places should be allowed and should be championed, should be defended, but they're not. And then it says the pandemic, climate crisis, and Russia conflict have demonstrated the role for an active government. I disagree with this 100%. I disagree. The active government has caused all of these issues. The active government has caused the Russia conflict. The active government has caused the pandemic, at least the response to it. And the active government has created the climate crisis. That being that I don't really know the level of crisis, but I do certainly know how many people just bark and bark and bark every day about the climate. So it says, where will this take us? He says, we really don't quite know what's going on. It could go to far right. It could go far left. It could stumble forth in some other way. My thing about my channel and what I'm telling you about is work has become absurd. There's no point in going to work anymore. The idea that you work hard and improve your life, improve your stuff, it's over. It doesn't happen anymore. Your chances for advancement suck. Okay. And the real money, the actual wealth in corporations is by a concentrated few. It's not the good old boys anymore. It's the good old, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Not just boys. It's whatever the color of the day is in your employment. That's what it's going to be. And it's absolutely crazy. Whatever color, whatever flavor. I want to clarify there. It's like, what's the flavor of this? Oh, you're great on, you're going to fight global terror. Okay. We'll promote you. Okay. Oh, you're great on tech security. Okay. We'll promote you. There's really no logic to it. Oh, you're an activist and you speak out on, poor families in Guatemala. Okay. You get promoted ahead of everyone else. There's really nothing where it's like, okay, you did a good job. You did good. You made the company money. We're going to move you forward. This is this is kind of where I'm at. So it says, while they remain unresolved, the trends Cowie cites could suggest the potential for a better chapter for work ahead. It's possible that we could end this turbulent decade with more workers earning living wages and enjoying better job security and working conditions. There are reasons to hope that we'll see greater flexibility and support for caregivers and concrete progress towards closing gender and racial pay gaps. You're going to have to prove that those exist first. Amid the confusion, it's up to all of us to insist on, lead toward, and vote for such progress. I don't agree with this article in any way. To be quite frank, I don't agree with it. And what I do agree with is that the future of work is odd. There's something going on, and I just don't agree with what they're saying. That doesn't mean that that it won't go that way. I feel like there's a lot of people that are past politics. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you have a worker who goes to work every day, and they go to work, and then they to move in their company, they have to go through things like diversity training. They have to go through unconscious bias training. They have to go through all these different types of training all the time, and they have to be told that they're an evil person, that you're born racist, and that there's nothing that you can do about it. It's not something that you can fix. That's just who you are. And you're told this for 20 years to move up the scale. After a while, you get tired of the bull. You get tired of it. You say, look, I'm here. What does any of this stuff have to do with the company making money? Okay, what does any of this have to do with how my employees or how my workplace peers are treating me? Okay, I just want to help the company make money. I want to work, and when I'm not working, I want to be left alone. I want my boundaries. I want a good pay. I want to be able to afford to take my wife out to dinner. I want to be able to buy a car if she needs one. I want to be able to have that life. And anything that has nothing to do with that, I'm tired of. That is what I'm saying is not a political position. That's a position of a good worker. They want to work. They don't want to they don't want to be involved in the culture wars. And so I that's where I digress from this article. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. If it makes me a bad person, I'm sorry. So let's go into something that I thought was interesting, another article. And that is, let me see if I can get it right just by doing the right thing. If I go here, I'll be at the bottom. Okay. Can you see this article? I pulled this up and I thought this was interesting. It says, how chefs are working to reinvent working conditions in Cleveland kitchens. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about with our nature of employment. These are the kinds of things that I think are fascinating. It says, we reduce the restaurant experience down to the lowest common denominator, says Heart of Gold chef Adam Bauer. Now, this is perfect for me. This is how I want to go through this. It says, pots and pans clatter across the kitchen. A burned out cook with bags under his eyes cowers under a thundering, cuss-laden rant of a militant head chef. At 3 a.m., she slinks off to a studio apartment with an eviction notice on the door, only to wake up at 8 a.m. the next day to do it all over again. This stereotypical scene brings chef movies to life and gave Gordon Ramsay a media career, but it's also one that's becoming rare since the pandemic. It says, I was reading Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential the other day, and it took me back 20 years. This Lucas Lola Sema says of the memoir that describes the often problematic culture in kitchens. I was like, wow, this is really how it used to be. Thank God it's not that way anymore. Coming up in kitchens that inspired chef Adam Bauer to do things a little differently with the Heart of Gold. The 31-year-old has started as a dishwasher in high school before skyrocketing to the top of Red, the Steakhouse, Trentina, and Greenhouse Tavern. Bauer thanks those 80-hour work weeks, sometimes in multiple kitchens each day, for helping him hone his craft and build his resume. In fact, by choice, he still works like that as the executive chef of his Ohio City joint. Let me get a drink. This is where we start to get very interesting. That was the background. But he's come to understand that a system is broken when a large restaurant might do $5 million a year and its skilled line chef is making $11 an hour. These are highly trained tactical chefs. You have to know what you're doing to be on the line at a restaurant like that. For so long, the industry was propped up on cheap labor, incentivizing cooks to get a high-profile restaurant on their resume. That's a bunch of shit. And let's talk about that. In America, the argument has been for a long time that if you don't go to college, okay, you don't deserve a good wage. It's totally elitist, totally wrong. I believe that wages, I know this sounds crazy, wages should be based on the value you bring to an organization. Okay. Now, you can't tell me that a good chef, a line chef, doesn't bring tremendous value to an organization. And in my own experience, like what I'm always trying to be about is I always believe in a one-on-one relationship between the person that is ordering the work and the person that gets paid for it. So like in my business, when I show a buyer a house and they buy one, okay, I get the commission check from that. It's 1-to-1. I don't own a business where I get a check and not having done anything or not having interacted with the client. Now, I do have it a little ways where some of my agents, I do get money from my agents, but that money is usually used to cover like expenses in the office that we wouldn't any other way be able to afford. I don't think it's an exploitive relationship. We have brokerages. The state has come up with the idea that a real estate brokerage, is the best way to oversee the large amounts of real estate agents doing the business, rather than the state itself looking over every single agent. It's easier to look over every brokerage. So that's the way it's set up here. But I wanted to say, look, it doesn't make any, I mean, have you ever been in a kitchen? Have you ever been in a restaurant kitchen? It is a fast-paced place where you can get burned, very dangerous, very like you leave work and you're full of grease and you stink, and it's just every day. The smells penetrate your clothes. It's a very difficult place to work. And I do agree with this. These people seem to deserve to be paid more. So he says, these are highly trained. Oh, I'm sorry. Now Bauer opts a tight crew of just 4 employees at a time. Okay. I was just checking my comments just to see if anyone was hanging out with me. No one is. 2 in the kitchen, a bartender and a hostess, each making at least $17 an hour. The experience is a bit augmented with no waiters and altered offerings, such as drumsticks instead of whole wings, which are soaring in price to keep food costs down. The chef even washes dishes during a shift. We reduced the restaurant experience down to the lowest common denominator, but I go happy knowing that everyone is making a living wage. Now, he is determined that $17 an hour is a living wage. I don't know. I can't tell you what a living wage is. It's, and then what the argument has always been, and what I've always enjoyed, the banter is when the fast food employees wanted $15 an hour. Okay. People on different sides of the spectrum said, why not 20? Why not 25? What's the limit? And I'm of the same opinion. What is the limit? And you say, well, John, that's just going to cause more automation. We're just going to see more robots. And you know what? We may. And then tell me what we're going to do with all these employees. See, I feel like there's a lot of people doing jobs that don't really do any good. They don't really help people. They don't really do anything. They're paper pusher jobs. Okay. They don't really do anything. And I just think we're going to get more and more of these jobs, and they're absurd. And I think that's where you get this situation where employees of large organizations have been allowed to become woke and actually make the company into some sort of political machine that is nowhere near what a traditional company should be about, which is about maximizing your opportunity for profit. There's no question about that, but can we make it so that you care for your employees? I mean, that's where I want to be. Other chefs, such as Eugene's Mike Schoen and the Spot on Lakeshore's Zachary Bond, pivoted to create more meaningful lives for themselves and their families. Schoen previously worked in high-profile and high-stress kitchens in Chicago and downtown Willoughby before launching Eugene in 2019. The pop-up is only open for a few hours a day, 6 days a week, and it's a venture run with his wife. A staff of 5 part-time and full-time employees helps the burger chef get home on time. And since the pop-up doesn't have servers, the cooks who bust food can even make tips, a rarity. Now, I want to always be mindful of things within our structures of employment in the United States that I find to be problematic in 2022. And that is, one of these is the concept of part-time versus full-time employees or salaried employees. I believe that many part-time employees really get the shaft, and you have to ask yourself why. Why in this great nation of prosperity are these people getting just shafted at their jobs? And you say, well, John, making $15 on the side isn't that bad of a deal. My answer to you, or my response to you is why are these people having to work on the side? Why are they making so little at their current job, their primary job, that they have to work on the side? That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like something we should have going on in the United States or in the world in 2022. So anyway, I'm glad that we're seeing the shift. People are taking better care of themselves, being more honest, and speaking up about work conditions. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. Cooking is a very special art form that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to these young chefs. Now, look, during the pandemic, many of these people really took the brunt of the employment issues in the United States. I mean, if you were part of the laptop class, you didn't miss a paycheck. Okay. Meanwhile, these restaurants were shut down. The workers marginalized. Even now in St. Louis and many places, the workers will be wearing masks while the guests will not be wearing masks. It's a two-tiered system that I find to be offensive. I don't want to be a part of it. It makes me sick. But that's the way it is. But look, my wife and I went to a number of restaurants after the pandemic kind of cooled down, at least on the political side. The numbers still indicate that it's still running rampant. But some of our favorite restaurants were no longer any good to go to. All the chefs and the cooks had left, and the food was not nearly as good as it was before the pandemic. And all I can say to that is I hope those people out there that were so talented, I hope that they're in a better place. I hope they're making more money and they're happier than they've ever been. Maybe they have good hours. It's tough. These people are working hours that are just ridiculous. Always at night, always late in the morning, early into the morning hours. It's just a terrible, tough job. I happen to know one lady who was a line cook and who left her job right before the pandemic hit. She was able to work through the pandemic when many of her friends were laid off, and just a fascinating woman. And it was really something to watch how she just happened to hit it just right. But anyway, I don't know how long it's going to take for these restaurants to come back. I don't know if they'll ever come back. I mean, we have to assume so. But should it come back like this, in the sense that can we come back to a kinder, gentler restaurant that where the people take care of their employees a little better, and that means monetarily. So finally, it says, after years of working fine dining jobs such as at La Albatross and Table 45, Bond had a similar epiphany during the pandemic shutdowns of 2020. Burnt out and sick of missing his son growing up, he moved from Cleveland's dining destinations to his hometown of Mentor and brought his fine dining approach to brunch with the Spot on Lakeshore. There, he hopes to create a space where young chefs can get the same level of training without enduring the grueling atmosphere. He's even pulling people back to the industry. We lost a lot of really talented people, so I kind of felt like responsibility to find a better way of doing things and make this look like a real career, and maybe get out while the sun's still out. Mostly, I just want to watch my kids grow up. This is a great chance to look at things differently. And I am totally on board with this. There's this thought that perhaps, let me go do this. There's this thought that perhaps there should be some sort of rule that the top executive in an organization can only make X times more than the lowest rung employee. And that perhaps that would fix some of these inequalities we're seeing. And I'm a little bit torn. Now, look, and let me just explain it from my business perspective. I have given everything I have to my company, Deerwood Realty. Okay. Before that, I was part of a company called D&L Trailer Repair, where we fixed semi trailers, lots of them. We worked hard. We were on call 24 hours a day. I worked there for 8 years. I was just feeling like we were getting somewhere. And then the company that we worked for, that we did most of our business with, went bankrupt. They held 3 months worth of our checks, and it devastated us financially. When I started Deerwood Realty, I put the same amount of effort, actually more, into this organization. And, you know, I have suffered. Okay. I have put in the time. And so you say, well, what does that have to do with it? Well, when I bring someone in and they don't have to worry about the company going under, number one, and number two, they don't have to worry about dealing with hard times like I have. They aren't sacrificing anything. They're sacrificing their time, but they're also being compensated for it. And so that's kind of where I have a little bit of a problem with some of this is like, look, especially in my business, especially in real estate, if you're earning a safe check every 2 weeks, okay, you're living a heck of a life compared to the real estate agent. I may go months without a check. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then I might make a bunch of money in 1 month, and then I have to save that money for the next God knows how long. It's not a consistent career, okay? And so why, if I'm paying someone a fixed amount of money every month to work for me, why am I giving them a better job than what I have? It's for my own freedom. Would be the answer. It's like your freedom is here. This allows you to do that. But I'll tell you, how many years of sacrifice? How many years of sacrifice should I be compensated for in the end? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not as simple as one would make it sound. Let me give you another example. Let's say you're the CEO of an organization and you've turned the company around. It was bankrupt and now it's going swimmingly, and you're being paid bonuses for all that you've done. Your compensation package was wonderful. And let's say you feel like you've taken all the money you possibly can there, and there's another opportunity that's come your way. Also bankruptcy. Also, you're going to have to turn that company around. You're going to have to fire people. You're going to have to make tough decisions. And you take that job on head on, okay? And then the first quarter rolls around and the business does terribly, okay? And there are calls from workers, your workers. There's calls from shareholders for your head. They say, you've done a terrible job on this reorganization. You don't belong here. There's been no movement. You don't deserve what you're being paid. Well, it's a conundrum, isn't it? You're being brought in to turn around an organization. You haven't had enough time to do so. It may not be an organization that can be turned around. You may be the best person for it, but the business might be over. For instance, if you're a typewriter repair, a worldwide typewriter repair company, okay, you've got problems. You've got problems because no one's using a typewriter. Okay. Maybe you should have diversified 20 years ago, but you haven't. And so this is all you have, so there is that part of compensation that's a little bit dicey. The other thing is many of these people are making massive amounts of wealth through ownership in stock alone. That is, they don't make a wage from the organization. They control or they own stock or they're awarded stock because the company flat out can't pay compensation hourly that competes with others in the industry. So how does this all work? I don't know. I mean, to me in St. Louis, when I was younger, if I would have thought about things the way I do now, your goal when you're younger is to get into one of these startup companies. Okay. Your goal is to hope that company has got an idea that works. Okay. You're taking a very big risk with your career. And then what you'd hope for is that you either grow with that company or that company gets bought out and you get to cash in all your stock and you're golden for the rest of your life. That's what you're hoping for as a youngster. Now, most people can't figure that one out. Second of all, it's hard to get into those corporations. It's hard to get into those companies. And if you're wrong, you could actually leave those companies with $0 because the stock is worth nothing. So that's a problem, right? That's a problem. It's not easy. It's not easy. And you say, well, you make these choices in life and you have to live it with them. And what I'm telling you is the choices aren't always as obvious as you would think. And even if you do make the right choices, you could still lose. Okay. So that's that article. Now I'm going to go to a different article. This was from the Pew Research Center. I don't know that I trust the Pew Research Center. I'd have to look into them a little more. But let's talk about this. I'm going to do this. Oh, this is the worst screen ever. I'm sorry. Let's do this one. I like this screen. This here, do you like this better? It just depends on your screen, I guess, at home. But let's do this. And by the way, I know that the video is a little cloudy. I'm running at 720p. My computer's a little old. I'm being quite honest with you. I run Streamlabs in the morning on my realty stream, and the picture is fantastic. But on this particular StreamYard, it's not great. So let's get into this article. It says the majority of workers who quit a job in 2021 cite low pay, no opportunities for advancement, and feeling disrespected. And those to me would be the top reasons I would think anyone would quit an organization. So it says the COVID-19 pandemic set off nearly unprecedented churn in the U.S. labor market. Widespread job losses in the early month of the pandemic gave way to tight labor markets in 2021, driven in part by what's come to be known as the Great Resignation. The nation's quit rate reached a 20-year high last November. A new Pew Research Center survey finds that low pay, a lack of opportunities for advancement, and feeling disrespected at work are the top reasons why Americans quit their jobs last year. The survey also finds that those who quit and are now employed elsewhere are more likely than not to say their current job has better pay, more opportunities for advancement, and more work-life balance and flexibility. But let me caution you with that. Whoever quits a job goes to a different job and says that job is terrible and they wish they were back with the other employer. It's the same thing with dating, okay? Let's say you're dating somebody and all of a sudden you break up, okay? And now you've got a new girlfriend or you've got a new boyfriend. Are you really going to say ever to anyone, my old girlfriend or my old boyfriend was better? That's the one for me. No, you're not, because we have this bias. That's the way we think. We're never going to tell people that things are worse off than they were before. It's just not in our nature. So I don't believe that part of the study. Okay, I just don't. So anyway, it says the majority of workers who quit their job in 2021 said low pay was 63%, no opportunities for advancement, 63%, kind of odd how they both stayed there, and feeling disrespected, 57% were the reasons why they quit, according to the survey. At least a third say each of these were major issues while they left. Let's get into some of the other issues. That roughly half say childcare issues were a reason they quit. At a similar share point to a lack of flexibility to choose when they put in their hours, or not having good benefits such as health insurance and paid time off. Roughly a quarter say each of these was a major reason. So let's just look at some of the reasons why people said they quit. Pay was too low, no opportunities for advancement, feeling disrespected at work because of childcare issues, not enough flexibility to put in hours, benefits weren't good, wanted to relocate to a different area. I would have thought that would have been higher based on what I've seen in my own real estate world market. It says working too many hours, working too few hours, and an employer required a COVID-19 vaccine. So let's take out the bottom one, which I think is a reasonable issue. Let's talk about the working too few hours. What would you think if you got a good wage, but your employer cut your hours to the point where you couldn't make any money? I know that I've seen in my family, I saw somebody very talented that is being, corporate came down and said, you can't work this many hours. And all of a sudden the job isn't that great anymore. They're being restricted. Now that's crazy, because think about it. They actually want to be working and they're not able to. So, this is fantastic. Wanting to relocate to a different area. Now, I can see that. I can see wanting, especially in this environment, I can see wanting to work in a different area, wanting to go to a different area. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then, the benefits weren't good. Look, it's they're couching it is providing health insurance and paid time off. But what about stock options? What about bonuses? What about all these things? And just understand how it relates to me and my small business. I would even say a micro business. Look, if I don't sell enough houses per year, it doesn't matter what I've promised you. I'm not going to be able to provide it. Okay. Because I actually need dollars to pay for all the crap that I say I'm going to give you. So if you want a raise, I literally have to sell more houses. If you want health insurance, I literally have to sell more houses. Everything I do is I have to do more of it. And I'll tell you, the risk reward for me at times hasn't really been there. I mean, do I want someone sitting in the office all day while I'm out busting my ass trying to sell houses and all they have to do is collect a check and go home? It is honestly one of those things where it's like, look, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I know how real estate offices work. What you're looking for is someone who doesn't realize that they're talented. You're looking for someone that is agreeing. Maybe you give them flexible work hours. You say, hey, you don't have to work. You just have to work from midnight to 3 a.m. If that's where you want to work. As long as you get X, Y, and Z done, I don't care. I mean, that's kind of how you have to structure things. You have to give away so much as a small business, as a micro business owner versus, any large corporation. I mean, there's not any wonder why people go work for big corporations. Okay. They have market share. So they're not nearly as worried about things as somebody like myself who has to just fight and kick and claw their way through everything. So it says about 4 in 10 adults who quit their job last year say a reason was that they were working too many hours, while 3 in 10 cite working too few hours. About a third cite wanting to relocate to a different area, while relatively few cite their employer requiring a COVID-19 vaccine as a reason. When asked separately whether their reasons for quitting a job were related to the coronavirus outbreak, 31% said they were. Those without a 4-year college degree are more likely than those with a bachelor's degree or more education to say the pandemic played a role in their decision. Now, I have 2 master's degrees, okay? I am often put in the same class as those who don't even have a 4-year degree. Why is that? I'm not sure. But the level of education, in my opinion, is not a reflection of how good you would be at your job or how you would think. That's just been my experience. For the most part, men and women often similar reasons for having quit their job in the past year, but there are significant differences by educational attainment. Among adults who quit a job in 2021, those without a 4-year college degree are more likely than those with at least a bachelor's degree to point to several reasons. These include not having enough flexibility to decide when they put in their hours, having to work too few hours, and their employer requiring a vaccine. There are also notable differences by race and ethnicity. Non-white adults who quit a job last year are more likely than their white counterparts to say the reasons include not having enough flexibility, wanting to relocate to a different area, working too few hours, or the employer required that they have a COVID-19 vaccine. The non-white category includes those who identify as Black, Asian, Hispanic, or other race or multiple races. These groups could not be analyzed separately due to the sample size limitations. So I have a real problem with this idea. Because you're Black, you think differently, and because you're Asian, you think differently, and because you're Hispanic, you think differently. It's the same reason why I have a difficult time with the idea that because you went to school and you graduated college with a 4-year degree, you think differently than somebody that didn't graduate with a 4-year degree. I think it's all kind of bull. I think these things are used to separate the population and weaken us as a political group than anything else. I really do. I think that this is a media manipulation that's been going on for, 60 years or longer. And I think it should be stopped at some point, but it won't be. It's too lucrative. It says many of those who switched jobs see improvements. And this is what I was talking about, the bias before. Look, you're not going to say that the job you left was better than the job you have now. It's not going to happen. So I'm not interested in that thought. So it says still sizable shares say things are either worse or unchanged in these areas compared with their last job. Fewer than half workers who quit a job last year say they now have better benefits such as health insurance and paid time off, while a similar share say it's about the same. About 1 in 5 now say their current benefits are worse than at their last job. College graduates are more likely than those with less education to say that compared to with their last job, they are now earning more and have more opportunities for advancement. Now, I don't know how you would classify opportunities for advancement in an organization. I really don't. It's not like they sit there and say, hey, we're going to promote you every week. I mean, if you're working in the warehouse at Amazon, they've said they're not going to give you a promotion. They're just going to pay you money to quit. In turn, those with less education are more likely than college graduates to say they're earning less in their current job and that they have fewer opportunities for advancement. I mean, this is a long survey, and I'm not really interested in going through every single minute of it, but some 53% of employed adults who quit a job in 2021 say they have changed their field of work or occupation at some point in the past year. Workers younger than age 30 and those without a postgraduate degree are especially likely to say they have made this type of change. Younger adults and those with lower incomes were more likely to quit a job in 2021. And that seems to make sense to me. And let me just tell you why that makes sense to me, okay? If you're young, you still get an opportunity to screw up, okay? As long as you could be married, but as long as you don't have kids or a huge family, you can take a chance, okay? And you can keep taking chances. The 45-year-old with 4 kids, a wife, and a mortgage and a dog, they aren't able to take the chances anymore. Okay, they're in trouble. This is not a good situation for them. So it says overall, about 1 in 5 non-retired U.S. adults, including similar shares of men and women, say they quit a job at some point in 2021, meaning they left by choice and not because they were fired, laid off, or because a temporary job had ended. Adults younger than 30 were far more likely than older adults to have voluntarily left their job last year. 37% of young adults say they did this, compared with 17% of those aged 30 to 49%. Of those ages 50 to 64 and 5% of those ages 65 and older. Experiences also vary by income, education, race, and ethnicity. About a quarter of adults with lower incomes say they quit a job in 2021, compared with 18% of middle income adults and 11% of those with upper incomes. Across educational attainment, those with a postgraduate degree are the least likely to say they quit their job at some point in 2021. 13% say this, compared with 17% of those with a bachelor's degree and 20% of those with some college and 22% of those with high school diploma or less education. So it says those with a postgraduate degree are the least likely to say they quit the job at some point in 2021. Isn't that interesting? I have a postgraduate degree and I didn't quit my job because I own my company. But I never fit in the workforce when I tried. I just never did. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't know what it is about me that doesn't let me do it, but it never went well. So look, are people quitting for more money? It seems like that's not as important to them as more of a lifestyle improvement. And by lifestyle improvement, I mean more so like they want to, they want to have more flexible hours. Okay. They want to work more hours, want to work less hours, want to have some opportunity to move up the company ladder, or at least the perception of such. I don't know if that's even true anymore, that you're going to move up the company ladder. So I'll do one more article. And we'll talk about it here. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm tired. It's 10 o'clock. I just want to go to bed. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know if I'm going to change the thumbnail tonight, which I do actually. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't know how to say it. I'm just driven. So again, if you guys like my content, it'd be great if you subscribed so that I could kind of move forward faster. But I understand. Let's get into the last article. And this is, to me, worker conditions. And that is, should someone that has come to the United States for an employment opportunity be subject to less standards, to less quality of employment than those who are native to this country? My answer to that is no. But that's not what happens in the United States. And so let's get to it. Here we go. Crap. I'm very bad at this one. Let's enjoy that. But I want to do this one. Let's do this one. Okay. The company was very bad for me. The New Bedford fish plant workers call from chains. Now, look, Working at a fish plant doesn't sound like a great idea. Okay. It sounds like it's terrible. And you know what? It is. Apparently it is. So close to 100 workers, activists, and allies celebrated as the Pescando Justicia, Fishing for Justice, an advocacy organization for workers in fish processing plants, announced their new code of conduct campaign at the Centro Comunitario de Trabajadores Saturday. All of this is law. Now, I don't know if this is New Bedford, Maine. I don't know where this is, but it says all of this is law, said Adrian Ventura, CCT's founder and director, to the mostly Spanish-speaking audience. The problem is that managers ignore it. And you know what? I've found that to be something that throughout my life is true. You can have something against the law, okay, and people still do it. So what does the law mean in those instances? The law is not enforced. Why is that? What's going on? Well, in these cases, in my opinion, it's because you have created a second-class group of citizens in the United States. And I think it's by design. And what you do is you keep bringing over people that can't speak English. You keep bringing over people that are at your mercy. And then you make them do all the manual labor jobs that your people won't do. Okay. And then you have a second class, a permanent underclass, and you're so proud of yourself because, you're basically exploiting human capital for your own gain. And it's disgusting. And why politicians allow this stuff to continue. I have my beliefs. I have my thoughts on that. I believe that they do it simply because they can get away with it, simply because everyone will look the other way. Because again, these people are second class citizens. They're allowed to be treated this way because they live in the shadows. And even if you brought them out into the light, you would just bring in more people to feed into the shadows after them. It's disgusting. The code of conduct demands plants complies with requests ranging from fair pay and compensation to health and safety. Listed are demands that employees inform workers of their schedules at least 12 hours in advance, allow for a 30-minute break for rest and food, 15-minute breaks every 3 hours, vacation time correlating to the amount of time an employee has worked at a company. Now, I think that it's reasonable to be able to schedule your life around your job. So I think that informing workers of their schedules at least 12 hours in advance is garbage. I think it should be like 2 weeks. And then as far as allowing for a 30-minute break for rest and food, 15-minute breaks every 3 hours, I mean, come on. That should be just basic. Vacation time correlating to the amount of time an employee has worked at a company. I don't know. I don't work that way. I mean, I work on commission. So if I don't work, I don't make any money. And sometimes when I do work, I don't make any money. So I don't have that same concern. But what would be fair would be to say, well, John, that's your choice. You chose this position. These people didn't. I would have a little bit of a quibble with that and say they could find another job. And that's where we would go round and round in circles, because I will give you the idea. I will give you the thought that these people actually can't go round and round and round, find different jobs where the employers treat them better, because they've been brought here as a permanent underclass and they're treated as such everywhere. It says prohibit immigration-related threats. In addition, the code of conduct calls for prohibition of immigration-related threats, and that employees be informed of their duties and supervisors clearly in both verbal and written forms. Ventura later told the Standard Times that the languages included, but were not limited to, Spanish, Portuguese, I don't know what the other one is, and other indigenous languages. Now, again, I don't even know where this is, but I mean, it seems like if you have an employee that doesn't speak the language and you're going to command them to do something, it seems like it should be in their language. That seems to be reasonable. Two fish facility workers spoke of their experience of workplace exploitation and discrimination of the crowd. The company was very bad to me, said Myrna whatever, a member of the board of directors for both CCT and Pescando Justicia, an active employee at Fall River-based Atlantic Cape Fisheries for the last 10 years. We didn't have workplace rights in the past years. We didn't have paid vacation, sick leave, or holiday before. Pachia noted that the break rooms were small and poorly maintained and that the bathrooms were not adequate for the approximately 150 workers on site. She said those issues were resolved through a combination of direct appeals to the company, complaints to state agencies, and court actions. Apart from the physical fixes requested, Patchy has said workers at her facility now have paid vacation and up to 6 days of sick leave. Now, why does it need to take all of this just to get basic workplace laws that just to be followed? Sexual harassment and discrimination complaint. In addition, the company, along with temp agency BJ Service Company, settled a sexual harassment and discrimination complaint filed by Packagia and others with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for $675,000 in 2019. The settlement also put the companies under a 4-year consent decree ordering the creation of mechanisms to report harassment and abuse, as well as ensure access to Spanish-speaking human resources staff and language resources were made available to workers. Now, I don't understand this in one sense. Like, basically, you're looking for a certain group of people to work for you that has no rights. That makes it bad. You're a bad company. You say, well, if we give all these things these workers want, we'll have to charge more for the fish. Okay? She says, I've seen the changes the company I work for. I feel like a woman with value because I've learned my workplace rights. Yeah, I don't think it's, I don't know about workplace rights, but look, if there's rules and regulations to work for an organization, you should probably know those ahead of time. Like before you sign on. Right? I think that would be reasonable. Guadalupe Rivas, a 29-year-old New Bedford resident from El Salvador, also spoke on her experience as a fish cutter and the crisis she is currently living. I have at times felt exploited or discriminated against, either directly or indirectly, in some of my jobs. I've been out of work for more than 2 months because of an accident I suffered at the company where I work. Rivas told the Standard Times that she cut her thumb on the job and didn't think much of it. A few days later, she noticed the wound had not yet healed and sought medical attention. Now, let me just say this. I think all of us at some point or another feel exploited or discriminated against indirectly or directly at a job. I also think you're judged at your job daily. And I also think that people know this, and I think they virtue signal outside of their office hours to try and gain favor with the particular managers or higher-ups that can help keep them in line and help them keep growing into different positions. This is how to move up the company ladder these days. I think it's disgusting, but I think that's what's happening. No pay or medical care after an injury. So when the mother of two brought a doctor's note saying she could not work, Rivas said she was sent home without pay or any medical care. She alleged that they have ignored her numerous attempts to speak with them on the matter. Now, look, this should be covered under workman's comp. Should it not? We pay into workman's comp. Why isn't it being taken care of? Are they not paying into workman's comp? These people are working. They're going to work every day. They deserve compensation. They deserve to live under the laws of the United States. The labor laws, as archaic and odd as they are, these people are being exploited in the United States, and it's not right. And there shouldn't have to be organizations that are started. There shouldn't have to be any of this stuff. This should just be expected of the American worker. You should not have to put up with this bull. It says, unfortunately, I've received no support from the company, neither medical nor pay. I've just been at home without pay or medical attention, which are things I need now. I just feel like another machine, she said, just before tears overwhelmed her. It makes me so sad. They only value us when they need us and want us to work and make money for them. That's right. That's America in 2022. The activist said the campaign would begin with conversations with factory management as well as public officials and the community at large. According to Ventura, the group reached out to 3 or 4 companies with the document so far. One refused to read it, he added, while others said they would review them. I don't have a problem with that. Look, I mean, you're sending me a list of demands. I'm already a crappy company in the way I treat my workers, so why do I care that they've got a bunch of demands? I'll just find new workers and new immigrant workers who don't know anything about rules in the United States and the workplace. So they will continue to exploit these people. This won't stop with this organization, okay? This will continue. We need to do something about our immigration laws. They're ridiculous, just ridiculous. but that's for another day. It says, I don't know. It says who's all there, but it's a who's who of politicians. Most of them on the left, always champion workers' rights. I don't know that that's true, but that's what's going on here. Let's go back to our base screen. So, it's another show down the books. I mean, the time has flown by. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this a year from now, okay, it's 4/3/2022. It's April 3rd, 2022. I'll be around. Oh my gosh, do I have a little something on my nose? Yeah. Anyway, I'll be around. Just subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll answer it. I mean, seriously, I've got nothing else going on right now. And just want to say thank you for watching. Have a good evening, and I will catch you tomorrow. I suspect it will be at 9 p.m. I see no reason why it wouldn't be, but I will make that announcement on Twitter. I think I've got it under Our Employment is the Twitter handle, but if you look up Our Nature of Employment, it's there. That's the best place to reach me right now, and we'll just keep going down that path and building a better and better and better product for us all to be proud about, and get some guests and talk about employment and just really, really have a good time. So anyway, with that, I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow.